All right, this is a walkthrough of how to create badges for WordCamp that include individuals' Gravatar images that we're going to slurp down from gravatar.com. And there are instructions for how to do this on this page. What I want to cover is what happens in detail here between steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. A little more detail for people like me who are not necessarily hardcore developers and don't have a lot of experience configuring and running scripts. So there are some bits and pieces that I found useful and necessary in order to get this to work. So I'm going to go ahead and share my process without sparing you all of the errors, trials, and tribulations that I went through to make this work. So here's what I have so far, right? I have WordPress installed on my local machine. When I tried to do this from a live web server last year, I had repeated failures. So I got it to work using a local install. So that's how I'm going to demo this. So I have XAMPP installed on my machine. I have WordPress installed on my machine. I have my servers running. So if I go to localhost, we see my beautiful test site that has absolutely no customization, but it is required for this process because we need to be able to access wp-config in order to run the script. Okay, so I've got my WordPress installation. I have my CampTix Gravatar badges.php file that I downloaded from GitHub. And I have that file open on my machine in Atom. This is the original file. What we are doing is we are going to output a CSV, clean it up, and place it inside our locally running web server. Configure this PHP script based on our settings, and then run the script. It will take the CSV information that we have placed, go out to Gravatar, pull down images, output a second CSV file that then will contain the path to the images that we've just pulled down, and return that second CSV file. So then when you create your badges, you'll have a CSV to import that will then reference all of the images that you've also downloaded, and will auto-magically put them inside your badge files. Okay, so what we need to do first is export our initial CSV file. We do that by going to our WordCamp dashboard, going to tickets, then tools, then export all attendees data to CSV, click export. We end up with an Excel file. The Excel file has more information than we need. All we need to keep is first name, last name, email address, and Twitter handle columns. So I went ahead and deleted all of the extraneous columns, keeping first name, last name, email address, and Twitter. And then I'm going to save that file, and let me show you where I'm going to save it, with what file name, and why I'm going to save it that way. So here is my local web host file, my htdocs file, which is the same as your public HTML file on a web server, or on the server it's called htdocs. They're interchangeable depending on the way a web server is set up. They mean the same thing. I have created, so I have my WordPress installation, which you can see here. And I have created a folder called Output. Inside Output, I have created CampTix Gravatar badges, and I have placed my cleaned up CSV file inside this folder, and I have named it Badges Input. Here's why I did all of that. If we look at our script, in this section of configuration, we have the directory for our input and output files. So the directory is predefined as output/CampTix Gravatar badges. So just to keep things simple, I named my output file or output folder output/CampTix Gravatar badges, and then named the file badges input.csv. So the way this works is that this creates a variable here called gravatar_dir, and it will append this to the beginning of whatever this is. So this goes inside here, and it does that by pulling this variable down. All right. I don't have to change anything to badges output. That gets automatically created. Now this destination directory is the link to where you want your badges to be on your local machine, so that when you run InDesign and import the CSV file into InDesign, this is how it will know where to look for the badges. I will change it to a path on my desktop. Though I'm not the person who's actually creating the badges, then when I pass this along to our designer, she'll have to do a find and replace to change that value to wherever it is that she puts the image files. So that's no problem. Let's look up here at the server and path definitions. These are the default ones that come in, and here is how I updated the file to work for me. So my HTTP host is localhost, and I deleted the path that was inside these quotes because as I tried to run the script, it was appending or adding extra information, and then it was looking for my file inside the folder with the extra path added to it, so it wasn't able to find my script file. So same thing with this require statement that has a directory name appended to it. I took that out and it worked. I also, this is important if you're on a Windows machine, had to change all of my slashes to backslashes because of the fact that Windows uses backslashes. So I have it set up so that my host is localhost. The path that it's going to look for doesn't need to be there because as it goes to localhost, it automatically drops into the folder where the script is running. Or at least that's how I'm experiencing it. So it's how it is working for me. I just went through about an hour of messing around with file path errors. This worked. So again, I'm not a hardcore developer, but this is how I got it to run. So my end, you can again compare. I don't seem to need this path here, and I don't seem to need this directory path here. So these are set up this way. And at this point, we're ready to go. So I save this PHP file with its new configuration also inside my htdocs folder. So if we look here, I have CampTix Gravatar badges.php. Okay, so at this point, I will open a command window. Then navigate to the folder where that script lives. And then type in PHP camptix gravatar badges.php. Cross your fingers, and if all is well, you get this response that says running. And it might take a while depending on how many attendees you have. But it is, in this situation, I've found that no news is good news. If something's wrong, you get a lot more feedback. And I have gotten a lot of feedback today. So now I have 50 attendees processed, and then it'll finish up. And then when it's done, it gives me a list of all of the attendees. Now when I go back to htdocs and I open up my output and my Gravatar badges folder, suddenly, whoa, there's a whole bunch of images in there, and there is a second file that is an output file that now contains our names, our Twitter handle, and our Gravatar file path. So now I will pass along I'll just zip up this file and send it along. That will contain all of the images as well as the CSV file with the file path. And again, whoever creates the images will need to update the file path to the images. And I just noticed that my output file is missing one thing. So our output file path, so the path to the images, is missing this final backslash between the file path and the name of the file. But when I add it in here, it does not look like the PHP file has the same function as it does before. So I'm going to leave it out and then just make a note that when we update the file path, we're going to need to add that piece in. And I'm sure it's something that could be managed easily by somebody who had more agility and skill with writing PHP scripts. But at this point in my life, that is not me. However, I did get this to work, and we now have Gravatar images for all of our WordCamp attendees. So in my book, that registers as a success. So have fun. Good luck.